Okay, doll lovers, stop what you're doing because I have the cutest, spookiest, and most fabulous transformation to share with you today. If you've been thinking about customizing your own dolls, this video will give you all the inspiration and maybe even the courage to jump in. I'm a huge fan of the Barbie Dream Bestie line, and if you've been keeping an eye on Amazon, you may know that Malibu has been popping up for just around $12, which makes her completely irresistible for a makeover. And since I'm obsessed with my Dream Bestie Alice in Wonderland makeover series and fashion redo, I just had to scoop up a few more while they're still floating around at a steal. So today, brace yourselves, we're turning Malibu into the fantastic pink and black queen herself, Draculaura from Monster High. I couldn't stop at just one. I made a mini Draculaura out of a Chelsea doll too. I'm so excited to share every step with you, from the electric razor buzz to the final fabulous face repaint. You can see I have some tools out, including a timer that I'll use to keep track of how long it takes me. Spoiler alert, it takes me 6 hours. The first step is shaving her head, getting her bald. I'll be doing this for both of the dolls. I like to use my electric razor. It's faster, more efficient, and keeps me from accidentally cutting into the doll's ears or parts of her head with the scissors, as I have done before I used clippers. I think she's so pretty and super cute. I have another makeover already done with this same Dream Bestie doll that's part of a collaboration. And then I have one more left over in my stash of dolls that I have that I want to make over. So I paid less than the sale price I put on screen for you. And if you just keep an eye, it might drop down to that $10.99 price that kept getting me to buy, one after another. Even though I had one on hand, it went on sale again. And I do like to have a backup for my projects. I also got 2 different little Chelsea dolls with no specific intention of how I wanted to make them over. So it was great to have her for this project. We'll get her head shaved as well. And then boiling water. I did have somebody leave a rude comment. It looked like it was translated, so maybe the rudeness was unintentional, but they were commenting on how, what ridiculousness was I up to, and how I ruined the doll, why I put its head in water, and why didn't I just put it in a bag first to keep it from getting wet. And if it was posed differently, it wouldn't have been rude. Anything that includes "you ruined your doll" will probably get deleted. Although I suppose there's a way a person could say that politely. But by and large, if there's the word "ruin" in there, probably going to get deleted. So my daughter said, that's how you know your channel's really made it, when you finally get some hateful comments. So I guess that means I've made it on screen. I'm continuing to shave the little heads. And I would like to explain why I like to use boiling water. I started with the blow dryer. I started with the plastic bags. And while I've seen both methods work well for other people, they did not work well for me. I had a huge amount of broken net pegs, stretch, and damaged neck pegs, things like that. And what I noticed when I was finally willing to just stick their head in the near boiling water, because it's not boiling anymore by the time I get it in the kettle to the cup over to the table, get their heads in there, it's not boiling anymore. So anyway, the reason why I prefer that is it actually softens the neck peg inside the head. Those little prongs will bend themselves backwards out of the way to make the head easier to remove. I love that. The other thing is that if I'm going to be scraping all the neck plugs out, I need a nice soft head for that. And it makes it easier to root the hair if the head is soft. So there's multiple reasons why putting it in the hot water 100% does not ruin the doll, and then does make it easier to do all of the steps that come next. On screen, I'm using my flathead screwdriver to scrape the plugs into the head. And then I'll be using some pliers that I got from the Doll Planet. I have a couple different pairs of scissors there. I've got some different paint out that I'll be using to paint the head. Some needles from either Doll Planet or Shimmerlocks. I think the ones I'm using for this project happen to be from Shimmerlocks. When I order hair, I just make sure I order more needles if I've really been burning through them. If you've been watching the You Create Barbie Basics, my most recent project, I broke the most needles I have ever broken on a single project. Her head was so thick, I broke 3 needles on that project, 3 ruined needles. After I broke the 3rd needle, I pre-punched all the holes with one of the broken needles, and then went back and put the hair in, and that worked much better. So if you find you're doing one of those projects, I'll bring that up in the video for that project. I'm getting way ahead of myself. So you can see I've decided to have a little bit of breakfast. It's probably the middle of the day, and I'm finally eating. So if you look at the neck peg, you can see those little green prongs have pulled up and bent out of the way, making the head easier to remove. And making that even easier, I'm just cutting those right off. They're not necessary. The doll's head works just fine without them. The only purpose for that extra piece is to make the head harder to remove. And that's not something that I want. Yeah, I ate half of my English muffin, and then, I couldn't wait. I get so excited about these projects. When I tell you I'm impatient, this is the level of impatience. I don't want to stop to eat. I don't even care about what I eat. I'm like, English muffin, that'll be fast. And that was it. I need to take better care of myself. But when I get excited about these projects, I just can't wait to get at it. Also, the head was still soft from having been in the boiling water, things like that. I didn't want to have to dunk her and then maybe have her be dripping wet again. So why don't I cut ahead to where I finish scraping all of the plugs, and then we'll see how much I can get out of the head. So have you seen the new festival Barbie Dream Bestie dolls? I saw somebody do an unboxing. My mind was blown. I didn't know they were available. She said, yeah, they're available now on Amazon. I went and looked on Amazon. I searched on Amazon. I could not find them on Amazon. And so I knew that if I went to the You Love It website, they almost always have an affiliate link to things. When you can't find the link and people say it's there, go look for that. And sure enough, they had the link to Amazon. I went there, I bought it. The doll comes with 3 complete outfits. It's another Malibu. I have quite a few of them at this point. I did not really need another Malibu. By the time this one's done, she will not look like a Malibu anymore, though. And that's one of the really exciting things I found about doll customizing, is I can take, perhaps multiple of the same exact doll, keep finding her for $11, and then make her look totally different, changing the eye color, the hair color, the lip color. The only thing the same is the skin tone and the face shape. And more than one of these dolls, I think, have the same face shape, or they're so similar, so subtly different. So I'm going to paint the head half pink and half black, and I decided to do the reverse. So Malibu is getting pink on the right, black on the left, and little Chelsea is getting pink on the left, black on the right. After I get them all painted and dried, the last reroute that I did before this one was braids. Oh my gosh. If you want a super fast, under an hour doll project, root braids into your doll hair. That's also getting ahead of myself. I have so many projects that I've been doing over the weekends that I want to share with you. I just need to find the time to edit them. Anyways, so I took the giant number 3 needle out that I was using to root braids with, and I'm putting in a number 5 needle. And you just fit it into the end of this. I've heard that people can make their own needles. Tell me, please, what size, where. Get me an Amazon link to that, because I've tried buying needles from Amazon and I end up with huge needles that are nowhere near a number 5 size, no matter what the listing description says. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong when I'm trying to make my own needles. So I just have to buy mine online. And then the tool itself, I've heard, could be made from an X-Acto blade handle. I have not tried that, but I think it's probably the same as this, but without the blue cap on the end. So the hair comes in 36-inch long lengths, And then it comes in different sizes. I think Doll Planet might just have the 1 ounce size. I know Shimmerlocks sells it also in 1/2 ounce sizes, which I always regret getting. And then also I've bought 3 ounce packages of hair. And I think that was also from Shimmerlocks. That just came in a giant, huge bundle. But one of the ways to get the most out of your 36-inch length of hair is to cut it into thirds instead of into halves. And that gives you 12-inch lengths or 6 inches long from the nape of the neck down is the length you'll get. It tends to be about knee length or calf length, depending on exactly how tall the doll is. Monster High dolls are a little bit shorter. I'm all ready to start rooting hair. I thought I'd start with the Chelsea, thinking she'd be really fast and easy. She was not that much faster. I'm starting with the pink half. I love this pink hair. It's when I talk about the hair just separates itself into plugs. You can kind of see where it's already just separated out onto the table into perfect, beautiful little plugs. Or maybe if you like thicker, you could use 2 of these per, like for the part line or certain areas where I wanted to make it extra thick. I would use 2 plugs. But this was so much faster, easier, and more fun than rooting in the black, which 100% did not separate itself into plugs. I feel like I always get too much hair in the plug when I have to guess how much hair goes into each one. I always overfill. It's not a huge deal. I didn't do it to the extent that they look up at the ceiling, which can happen if you really overfill, especially when the hair's still wet from a boil wash. I love a good boil wash at the end. But yep, I've wrapped my finger with tape, this time with some washi tape, which does work okay, but not as well as the shiny Scotch tape. It's just not as smooth for the needle to glide across, and it is more easily punctured and damaged over the repetitive scraping of the needle. Better that than my finger still, though. So yep, I put the tape on my finger, and you can see I don't separate the plugs out in advance. I'm not spraying it with water. I found that really just hides those little self-made plugs from me. If it's got a lot of static cling and it's flying away, I would definitely get my little misting bottle out. But overall, I find that just slows things down. So I don't do that. I think I did mention this project takes a total of 6 hours. So I did use the timer, I think pretty well. I would set the timer for about 5 minutes, imagining we're going to speed things up here. And then I don't know how long I took off. I've been trying to, in my more recent videos at least, set the timer for the amount I'm going to take off screen before I shut the camera off so we can see how long I set the camera. You can also see I'm using my, what's it called? Rat tail comb to help me pick up the hair and to separate some of the hair off the table instead of, getting it tangled or trying to grab it with my fingers. I find that works easier. And I just have a small portion of the hair out, just a little hank of the hair sitting out, and then the rest is in a huge bundle sitting off to one side. It'll be enough to do both of these dolls since I cut it into thirds. That 1 ounce will be enough. Well, and we're only doing half with pink, half with black. So, we need half as much. All right. It looks like I don't think she's going to take that long. And I set the timer for 30 minutes before I took off. So it's 30 minutes later. I've almost finished half of her head. I guess I don't know why I was complaining it took so long. I think I just wanted to hurry up and get to the bigger doll. Maybe I thought it would only take 30 minutes. I don't know what I was thinking, but that's our 5 minutes there. We finished the pink half, I think, and I'm ready to just finish up the pink that's on my desk with the Dream Bestie doll. I'm back to working on the Chelsea doll. I thought we could spend 5 minutes in time lapse together, and then I'll just finish it to the part line, boil wash her. Or no, I'll meet you back here. We'll just do the boiled dip so we can do it on my desk. So we'll just watch this. in time lapse. I think it's fun seeing the 5 minutes go by. And then, yeah, when we're done, we'll do the boil dip. And then after we have the Chelsea doll prepped and gelling, literally, then we'll go back to working on the Dream Bestie doll. I really find that pouring the near boiling water over the top of their head works so much better than this dunking and combing. It does work okay, and this is much easier for me to film. So I thought I'd rather have it easier to film. I'm getting her ready for bangs, so just combing the hair all the way around, and then I'll separate some out and cut that, usually like jaw or shoulder length, so it's clear what I've picked to have out as bangs. Then I coat that heavily with my got to be glued hair gel. I glue it heavily and then let the set glue dry and harden. And then it's like cutting paper to cut the bangs and to get them cut to the length that you want. See, I'm just working on getting the hair that I want and leaving enough out to cover the rest of her hair. I don't want any open plugs or scalp hanging out. So I'll just fuss with that, get some gel on it, and then we'll get the Dream Bestie doll going. All right, she's all done. I don't have a doll stand or anything for this little doll. I need her to stand on her own 2 feet. I'll need to cut this hair. It's longer than she is tall. So just cut that to about ankle length for her and dispose of that. And then the other thing that I'll do is I'll cut probably to the bottom of that little plastic band the hair that I've determined I want to be bangs. I don't know if I've added the gel yet or not. I can't remember. It could have just been wet and I have it sitting wet like this until I was ready. I probably have not added the gel yet. Hard to say. You can see I have super professional hair cutting techniques going on screen, and I definitely did not learn that anywhere, and just sawing through it. Now we're back to the Dream Bestie doll. Looks like I got a little bit done before I picked up the camera. The pink is just done because I still had pink out on my desk when I was waiting to switch to black for the Chelsea doll. Instead of putting it away, I just used the rest of it up. And then now having the black out, I'm going to finish the black. Black was way less fun, more time consuming. And so I couldn't wait to switch back to the pink. As soon as I was out of black, I probably just switched over to pink. On screen, it looks like I've taken something like 45 minutes to an hour off camera, and then I thought I'd spend 5 minutes with you in the time lapse working on finishing the last of that black up on my desk, which I will finish, and then immediately switch to rooting in more pink hair because that was so much more fun and faster. I love this pink. It's so pretty. Again, I took another hour, at least hour off screen, and I'm back in the 10 times normal speed to root the hair in. Occasionally I find a hair that seems to be cut way shorter than the rest. I might throw that to one side. Or when I just try to pick up some hair, I just, pick up a small clump, separate it into smaller plugs, and then put that in. I'm loving how this is coming out. The black and pink split dye really sells the Draculaura look. So then the outfit doesn't have to. I actually have an even better outfit than the outfit she ended up in, and I'm torn as to whether or not I should put her in that outfit. I really love using this Rainbow High outfit. I've been dying to use the Rainbow High outfit that she finishes in. If you saw the thumbnail, you have a good idea of that. Looks like, again, maybe I spent another 45 minutes or an hour off camera, and we're spending another 5 minutes at high speed getting it done here. I'd like to know if you're interested in Monster High or not, or if this is just entertaining for you. I noticed that when I redo Monster High dolls, I don't know if they're just not inspiring enough or if I'm too late to the party, but they tend to do very dismally, 10% of the views of my other better performing videos. Even though this is making a Draculaura, I'm hoping it won't suffer that curse because it's a Dream Bestie doll. And I think that's so fun. A Dream Bestie and a Chelsea couldn't be cuter, I don't think. I love that Draculaura has that super sweet kind of kawaii thing going on. Love that. I've added a small amount of Fabri-Tac glue inside the head. I like squeezing it around to make sure it's coated, and then also using a Q-tip to make sure there's no giant globs hanging out around the neck hole. This will help it to dry quickly. For me, this tends to set in about 2 hours. It's very low to no humidity where I'm at, so it's going to dry pretty quickly for me, and then I'll be able to put her head back on the body. In the meantime, I'm going to just put it on this broken doll stand and just not barely push it inside the neck so that I won't encounter any of the glue. That'll have her ready so that I can boil wash her. It'll stand up in the sink like that for me. So Malibu got a boil wash. She got her bangs gelled and cut. And then so did little Chelsea, got her bangs cut. But just trust me, if you let the gel set and dry, it's as easy as cutting paper to cut the bangs exactly to the length that you want. I like to have my head right over the top of them when I'm trimming the bangs, and it ruined my footage of that. Fortunately, I was aware of that when it came to recoloring the eyes. And so since Draculaura has red and pink eyes, that's what I'll be adding here, using both acrylic paint and my watercolor pencil that I've wet. I wet the tip of that. And then also using some acrylic paint. I was so focused on what I was doing that a lot of the footage is off screen. I had turned it upside down so that I could reach it better. So sorry there isn't better or more footage of this. And then here I am doing the same thing. I did multiple coats of paint, watered down paint, to get the layers to get nice and opaque. And you may notice I have already painted the shoes and then dressed the body in the upcoming outfit. I'm so excited. When it gets close to finishing these dolls, I just can't wait. And I dot in the blacks, I add back in the whites. I just have to be patient and do it carefully and slowly in layers, dabbing the slightly watered down acrylic paint. What I like to do is to get my brush kind of damp and not drippy wet, and then use that in the acrylic paint instead of adding water to the paint. One of the things I enjoy about working on multiple dolls is that one doll can sit there and dry. Acrylic paint dries very quickly, and then I just work back and forth between the dolls. I think red lips will look beautiful, and I have learned my lesson about repainting lips on dolls with teeth, and that lesson is that I can't do it, not good enough. One of the things I'm using is an unbent paper clip. I use the end of a paintbrush, and then I also use the point of a needle for the tiny little whites in the dots for Chelsea's eyes. After I'm done painting the lips and before I do the teeth, I want to seal that with my high gloss varnish. And what this does is it gives me a little bit of wiggle room. When I go to paint the teeth on, if things go wrong, I should be able to wipe it off without ruining the lips and having to start all over. I also made a tiny little heart on each of their cheeks using my watercolor pencil, and I use a tiny amount of the varnish cover over that as well to help seal that in, since that was just watercolor paint. I'm not planning on spraying this with any sort of a spray sealant, so I need to seal everything in as I go. And I think I did forget to mention that I was mixing Mod Podge in with the paint to make that both seal and paint at the same time, although I'll go over the eyes when they're all done with the gloss varnish as well. Matte varnish would work nicely. I find that just helps smooth over any very slight lumpiness. If it's very lumpy, you'll see it, but it just kind of helps make everything look smooth and finished. For the dot in the eye, that's where I use the back of my paintbrush. Sorry, I moved her off camera. I usually try to keep the camera so that it includes the edge of my desk, since I know that I pull things down to the edge of my desk, and I'm afraid I missed that. It's most important and critical that I get the dot symmetrical, the right shape and size, even, and that's what I was focused on, not at all whether or not I was on frame. I was so focused. I'm not even sure I remembered that I was filming, because there was one point where I just left the camera on for like 40 minutes and just totally forgot that I was filming. And this may be some of that footage right there. Sometimes it's not so much that I lose the footage, but that the footage is unusable since everything I'm doing is out of screen when we take big jumps ahead in progress at times. So what I'm doing is I'm just painting over the existing details and retaining the outline of the eye. If I cover it slightly, I can still see enough to go back and paint that back in with the black. I did add a small amount of blush to the cheeks as well, which I thought was really fun. I am so tickled with how this came out. And if you haven't tried customizing one of the dolls, I think you should do that. If you're into a certain fairy tale or story, video game, movie character, give it a try. What I do when I'm thinking of these things is I think, which character can I readily find, or better yet, do I already have clothes that I can substitute for the clothes the character would wear? Since I do have sewing skills that I do not want to use at all, they're super rusty. I have a cheap sewing machine that is more trouble than it's worth. It's not fun. It's not fun for me. And this is a hobby that I do to relax and enjoy myself after a stressful day at work. I don't want a stressful hobby as well. The repainting does give me a small amount of stress, but I feel a pretty low risk here because I can remove and wash off things that I've done with boiling hot water just by redunking her head. If I didn't like the hairstyle, I could shave it off and reroute the whole thing later if I wanted. It's not quite as invasive as you might think. The hair certainly was. Isn't she cute? It's really thanks to the support and the encouragement from all of you watching my videos and commenting on them that keeps me going and coming up with more creative and fun ideas. I hope you love this. Please let me know if you thought this was as much fun as I did. This is maybe my favorite project yet, although I probably say that about each one. From beachy blonde to gothic flair with pink and black and spooky hair, our dolls are dressed and looking fine. Draculaura's joined the Dream Bestie line. Thanks for watching. Hope you had fun. More cute customs are on the way. Stay tuned, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this transformation, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment to let me know your favorite part. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next dreamy makeover. I have a few more Malibu Dream Besties waiting for their big glow up, so more videos are coming very soon. Stay creative and spooky cute. See you next time.